It's a luxury that certainly not every team has. A homegrown ace, one of the best pitchers in the game, young and under team control for 5 more years. A homegrown stud closer under a lot of team control. However, the Giants pitching gets a little wonky after that. They had poor performances, but they've also got some young talent that makes the future really bright.
You are Locked On Giants, your daily San Francisco Giants podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello and welcome to Locked On Giants, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, where it's your team every day. My name is Ben Kaspick, and on the show we provide daily episodes, Monday through Friday, talking about the San Francisco Giants in a way that's data-driven and rational, but also simple, passionate, and accessible to all. I'm a former contributor for the baseball statistics and analysis websites Beyond the Box Score and Rotographs. I've been podcasting about the Giants since 2015, and I'm a lifelong fan. Thank you for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. We're free and available wherever you get your podcasts, including YouTube. So check us out there if you have not already, and please hit that subscribe button wherever it is that you are following the show. And today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Make every moment more. Right now, new customers can bet $5 and get $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And coming up on today's show, as promised, we're going to go through what I call ranking the Giants pitchers. Yesterday, we ranked the Giants position players, and it turned into less of a ranking and more of like a going through everybody and just kind of giving an evaluation. So we'll see how it goes. We're going to talk Giants pitching in 2023, and where else could we possibly start but the guy who was far and away the best pitcher on the Giants and is one of the best pitchers in Major League Baseball now. I think that's clearly established, and that is Logan Webb, who led the major leagues in innings pitched, which I think is one, I'm sure he's super proud of that, by 6 whole innings. Zach Gallen, who made an extra start and still came up 6 innings short. So Logan Webb, pitched deep into games consistently and ended the year with a 3.25 ERA, a 3.66 expected ERA, 3.16 fielding independent pitching. Just, not your traditional ace in the sense that he's not a strikeout machine, but a run prevention machine. And if we look at the last several years combined, I mean, he's just done it consistently, starting in 2021. And what's crazy is in 2019 and 2020 combined, in 94 innings, Logan Webb had a 5.36 ERA. And Gabe Kapler, now gone, and I think Farhan Zaidi both kind of said there's more there. Like, we really believe in this guy, and there's more in the tank. There's more in the tank. And that just goes to show, like, there is talent evaluation ability here, because they were absolutely right. Because over the next 3 seasons, we're talking 2021, 22, and 23, 556 and 2/3 innings, Logan Webb has a 3.07 ERA, 3.00 fielding independent pitching, 3.03 expected fielding independent pitching. So just kind of like 3 runs per 9 is the norm for Logan Webb. Now, this year it went up a bit, but offense in general in the league went up a bit. So he didn't really get like worse. It's just that the whole league got a little bit worse at preventing runs, and he was a part of that movement, if that makes any sense. So he just like stopped walking people too. I want to say that his walk rate of 3.6%, he only walks 3.6% of all of the hitters that he faced this year. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say that was the best in the majors. And no, it was not. It was the best in the National League. So George Kirby and Zach Eflin were better in the American League, but Logan Webb, lowest walk rate in the National League at 3.6%. ground ball rate. That's a big thing for Webb as he keeps the ball on the ground. Yes, better than anybody by far among qualified pitchers. Logan Webb at 62.1%, the best, i.e. highest ground ball rate in baseball. 62% of balls that were hit in play against him were on the ground. And the next closest player was Framber Valdez at 54%. So Webb was 8 percentage points higher than the next closest player, and that's kind of incredible. So when you combine like a league average strikeout rate, the best in the National League walk rate, and the best in baseball ground ball rate, that's how you prevent a lot of runs. Ground balls are good because, even when they get through and they're hits, they're not homers and doubles and triples. They're usually singles when they get through, and if they don't get through, obviously they're outs. And so ground balls are generally better. Like if you can just get a ton of grounders, you often have a lot of success. And so Logan Webb, he's only 26 years old. He's going to turn 27 in November. And that extension that they signed him to, like I was doing yesterday, I'm going to hand out credit where credit is due for the front office and ownership and all that for getting that extension done, because otherwise we would be entering a moment right now where he would have just 2 years of team control remaining, and we would be nervous and talking about why is he going to sign an extension? He's 2 years from free agency and he's been really good, and he knows that if he just reaches free agency in 2 years, he can get a huge contract. So why sign like a kind of team-friendly type deal now? Well, we don't have to worry about that because they took care of that before the season. And so it's a 5-year, $90 million extension that doesn't start until the beginning of next year. And so 5 more years of Logan Webb, 27, 28, 29, 30, and 31. So through his age 31 season. Yes, through his age 31 season. So anyway, it's clear far and away, like there was nobody even remotely in the same stratosphere as Webb, although ironically it was Alex Cobb and not Logan Webb who made the All-Star team. Logan Webb continues to be a guy who has never made an All-Star team, which is stupid. And I mean, Alex Cobb, we'll get into him and what his season was like and why it was kind of weird. And 23 other pitchers. The Giants used 24 pitchers this year. I think Farhan Zaidi has said, I haven't verified, that they used the fewest number of pitchers in baseball. And so that's something that I think a lot of people intuitively wouldn't think was true. But, the roster churn and all that, complaining about that, like that really didn't happen much this year, actually, especially on the pitching side. It seems like they just kind of had their guys. Certain guys got injured at certain times, and a few players got optioned at certain times. But otherwise, 24 pitchers may sound like a lot, but it's mostly because of injuries. And I must say, just looking through this list of pitchers, we're including like Brandon Crawford and David Villar and Matt Beatty. So position players, and those guys don't really count. So coming up in just a minute, not only do the Giants have a homegrown ace and a guy who's under team control for a long time, but they've also got a stud closer. So I may be making it sound like they're in the best shape ever on the pitching front, but it's like it gets a little weird after that. They've got the 2 pillars at the top, but after that, it's a lot different. So all of that conversation will be coming up in just a minute. And before we get into it, today's episode is brought to you by our good friends over at FanDuel. October baseball is back, and you can make your postseason debut with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Join FanDuel today, and you'll receive $200 in bonus bets guaranteed when you place your first $5 bet. Just visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to create your new account. Then you can get in on the action from the first pitch until the final out. Bet on everything from strikeouts to home runs to who will win the game. And if you don't want to wait for the whole game to get a win, predict what will happen in the next at bat with quick bets. So head on over to FanDuel.com/lockedon right now. Step up to the plate this postseason with $200 in bonus bets guaranteed. Make every moment more with FanDuel, official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. All right, here we go. We're going to get into the rest of the pitching staff. As I did yesterday, I spent a lot of time talking about one player in the beginning, and eventually we're going to get through them all, so it's going to speed up on us a little bit. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day, everydayers. Tomorrow on the show, we're going to be giving out some team awards. We're going to be giving out all kinds of different awards, and you're not going to want to miss that. So, and also hopefully some rumblings on the managerial search. Also, some mailbag questions are going to be thrown in. So actually, it's a little bit of a mixed bag for tomorrow, but it's going to be great. And again, I hope for some managerial search updates because, hey, this thing's moving along and they want to be done in like 20 days. And so we're going to hear some rumblings soon. Anyway, continuing on, like I said, Giants have an ace in Logan Webb. Not a traditional one. Like I said, he's not your, strikeout machine, peak Max Scherzer or Justin Verlander or whatever, but run prevention ace type, a run prevention ace and durability ace nonetheless. But they could still use, I'm not saying don't go out there and get Yamamoto or Ohtani, who's not going to pitch next year, or Aaron Nola or Blake Snell. Like, you could always use another frontline starter. But anyway, I just want to give a shout. I think, Camilo Doval is one of the best relievers in the game. It's kind of following kind of a parallel path to Logan Webb. He never really struggled, though. He struggled maybe in his first cameo in the majors, which was over the span of a few weeks, but then he came back and ended up being reliever of the month in maybe September in his rookie season, and then was good in the playoffs. Did unfortunately give up a run in that Game 5 of the NLDS against the Dodgers in 2021. But Camilo Doval, he pitched the exact same number of innings this year as he did last year. Interesting, I just noticed that. 67 and 2/3 innings. His strikeout rate went up from 28% to 31%. Walk rate went down from 10.5% to 9.3%. He continued to be a ground ball. What's crazy is that he is a strikeout pitcher and a ground ball pitcher. And that is a great combination because of what I said about ground balls already, plus strikeouts, which just takes randomness and lucky hits out of the equation. Like, you want to talk lucky hits and randomness, look no further than Tyler Rogers, for example, where the ball in play can be a problem at times, whereas a strikeout is just nothing bad unless unless it doesn't get blocked or whatever, and there's a runner on base, and whatever. Strikeouts are good, and Camilo Doval gets them. And he had he has a career 2.77 ERA, just spectacular. He had maybe one or two rough outings on the season, it seemed like, and that was just about it. And so if we were to look at kind of the major league leaders, I want to sort them by relief pitchers. We're gonna find Camilo Doval at the top of a lot of lists here when we just search by what should we search by? By strikeout rate. I bet you he's up there near the top. He's actually 24th out of, what are we looking at? We're looking at 162 relievers. So that's still good. It's not like elite, but it's still really good. I would imagine that ground ball rate is up among the leaderboards as well. He comes in at 29th. Okay, so those two things are good, but not elite. But where he is going to be elite, look, relievers are volatile and they have up and down. Sometimes guys just go out there and have a season in which their ERA is in the ones, and that happens. And so I think, for relievers, because we're talking about small samples of seasons for them, it's kind of probably best to look at the last 3 years and see where does Camilo Doval rank in a lot of these categories. Like, if we were to go from 2021 to 2020 through 2023, I'll bet you that his ERA as a qualified reliever is much better than it kind of looks otherwise. What is his ERA? It's 2.77, which comes in at 29th. So maybe I'm just tripping. Maybe, look, he's obviously really good. And when he comes into the game, sometimes command is a bit of a problem, but he is just one of the best young closers. I mean, the stuff is just off the charts. The 103 mile an hour fastball, 26 years old, like Logan Webb, even younger. He just turned 26 in July. And he is under team control for, I believe, 4 more seasons. Let me just verify that really quickly. Yes, 4 more years of team control for Camilo Doval at age 26. So it's just a great situation to be in for the Giants there. And just kudos to Doval. I want to say, if he wasn't first, he was among the leaders in saves this season. And I can probably look that up. It's just sorting by Giants pitchers. Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm a little bit thrown off here, but Camilo Doval had 39 saves this season, which was quite a lot. And if it wasn't number one, it was among the leaders in Major League Baseball. I really want to get that sorted for you. It was second, tied for second. Emmanuel Clase of the Cleveland Guardians had 44, and Camilo Doval and David Bednar were tied at 39 for the most in the National League and second most in Major League Baseball. There you have it. So, you feel good about Doval. You feel great about Doval. You feel great about Webb. What about everybody else? Alex Cobb, I think, is the next guy to get into, and it's an interesting case. The case of Alex Cobb is an interesting one because he was dealing with an injury that kind of changed his season, and maybe he got a little bit worse as things went on, and he just was never quite right. And yet he still had a really solid season with a 3.87 earned run average and, a really good ground ball rate as well. But he wasn't, it's weird because, last year he ended up with even a better ERA than he had this year, but the peripherals were like sparkling and spectacular. But this year it was kind of the opposite, where the ERA was fine, but the peripherals were not as good. And so I think a lot of it had to do with the injury that he was clearly pitching through down the stretch. And they've got this club option for him. He just turned 36 on October 7th, same birthday as my mom. I've said this before. So good luck charm is Alex Cobb for that reason. And the Giants will pick up that club option. And he's just a solid, whether he's, third or fourth or fifth in your rotation. He's just a guy you want in that rotation, I think is pretty clear. But beyond that is like where, outside of some guys in the bullpen and outside of some young pitchers, the veterans, like when we're looking at Sean Manaea and Anthony DeSclafani and Jacob Junis and Alex Wood and Ross Stripling, like we had a combined somewhat disastrous year from so many of these guys. So we will get into those guys, who's back, who's not, and the rookies, the promise of the rookies, maybe even just like replacing a lot of these guys who are in large part departing. So we will get into that in just a minute. And before we do, today's episode is brought to you by Jace Medical. Modern medical care and treatment are important, but our global supply chains are fragile. Things like pandemics, natural disasters, and foreign travel may cut you off from the treatment that you need. Jace Medical is your solution. Just fill out their online form like I did, and one of Jace Medical's board-certified physicians will review it to determine whether medications are safe and appropriate. Then Jace will send your prescriptions to one of their partnered pharmacies, where your order will be filled and mailed directly to your home. You can also send your physician a message for answers to treatment-related questions at any time. Everybody should be empowered to care for themselves and their loved ones during the unexpected, which we've just experienced. That's why Jace Medical offers the Jace case, which is what I picked up myself. I have it just in the other room. Save more than $360 by getting these life-saving antibiotics with Jace Medical, plus an additional $20 off by using our code LOCKEDON at checkout at jacemedical.com. That's JASE medical.com. All right, here we go. The disappointing veterans and the promising rookies. I think that's kind of the rest of the story here for the Giants when it comes to their pitching. We've focused a lot on Camilo Doval and Logan Webb, and we mentioned Alex Cobb. And outside of that, it gets weird. I think it's a big reason why the season went the way it went, was because it gets weird after that. So Sean Manaea, probably, he pitched 117 and 2/3 innings, mostly out of the bullpen. He made 10 starts. He started in the beginning and he started at the end. And then in the middle, he was in the bullpen. And if we were to sort, like starting in around like late May or mid-May, he was really good. And so the fact that he showed that makes me think that he very, very well may opt out of his contract and get a bigger contract. Yes, believe it or not. I think he's owed just $12.5 million next year if he were to opt in, and that I think he could do better than that on the open market by opting out. Although it is a pitching free agent class that's pretty deep, and so maybe he looks at that and says, "I'll just come back and do it again in San Francisco." And so yeah, and these decisions are due right after the World Series ends, like within 5 days. And so we will find out about Sean Manaea. Ross Stripling falls under the same category. Same with Michael Conforto. So a lot of opt-out decisions that will pave the way for the offseason. Speaking of Ross Stripling, he was probably the worst pitcher on the Giants in 2023. And so this is not exactly a ranking here. I just want to, I tie him with Manaea because they got like identical contracts. Stripling just couldn't stop allowing homers. He pitched 89 innings and he allowed over 2 home runs per 9 innings. He allowed 20 home runs in 89 innings. Logan Webb allowed 20 home runs this year in 216 innings. So Webb pitched way more than 2 times as many innings and allowed the same number of home runs as Ross Stripling. And so that was the problem. Like Stripling just couldn't stop allowing home runs. I want to say through no fault of his own. It's like, of course, he doesn't want to be allowing all these homers, but that is a horrible rate over 89 innings. Although if we look at Kyle Harrison, he was basically the same, about 2 home runs per 9 innings over 34 and 2/3 innings at the major league level, but a very different situation. So Ross Stripling, unfortunately, will very likely, and he's even said he will opt in. And so you're going to be, quote unquote, stuck with him after the horrible year that he had. Moving on through, Anthony DeSclafani had another strange year. He started off extremely well and then just completely fell off and got injured again. And they're also, quote unquote, stuck with him with no opt-out, just one more year of that contract. Jacob Junis was pretty solid. Like when you look at the overall numbers, everything in the 3s, nothing in the 4s. 3.87 ERA, 3.79 expected ERA, 3.74 fielding independent pitching. Strikeouts per 9 was over 10. I mean, the dude had a solid season quietly for the Giants, but he's a free agent. And so it's, I think they need to clear some space for some of these younger pitchers. And so he very well may be a guy who departs. Scott Alexander didn't have a great year out of the bullpen. If you look at the ERA, 4.66. Peripherals were better, but 4.66, just not great, like production-wise. And he is also a free agent. Ryan Walker, a rookie. This was a big standout success story of the season. 3.23 ERA, 3.04 expected ERA. Strikeout rate was high, 11.5 strikeouts per 9 innings. The dude was just good in like multiple roles, ended up pitching he pitched in 49 games, made 13 starts, and in 49 games went 61 and a third inning. So a multiple inning reliever who just had a low threes ERA. So great rookie season, and that means, tons of club control remaining. Great rookie year for Ryan Walker. Tyler Rogers was good. 3.04 ERA, 2.69 expected ERA. Was great in the beginning and kind of fell off a little bit down the road. 74 innings, quite a lot for a reliever. Luke Jackson only pitched 33 and a third innings in his first season in San Francisco. Struggled at times with command, but at the end of the day had a 2.97 ERA, and he's got a couple more years on his contract. So hopefully, another year removed from Tommy John, just maybe more consistency and more innings next year out of Luke Jackson. John Brebbia, I like the guy so much. He missed a lot of time, though, with that lat strain. Taylor Rogers, I thought they used him kind of oddly, and it wasn't like the greatest season for him, but he was pretty effective at times. His last outing of the year, he got rocked, and I think that kind of skewed the numbers a little bit. Alex Wood was terrible. Actually, 4.33 ERA is not terrible, but the complaining about his role and all that, it was just kind of a headache, and he's a free agent, so I don't think the Giants want him back, and I don't think he wants to be back, so wish you the best, Alex Wood. He's probably gone. So outside of that, we're talking youth, and this is where I get excited because it goes beyond even the guys we saw this year. There's another wave of pitching coming, but when we look at the young pitching, like I already mentioned Ryan Walker as a reliever, but Tristan Beck and Keaton Wynn and Kyle Harrison, those three guys, like you could literally have those three guys in your rotation next year. It wouldn't shock me, like to begin the year. They probably won't, but that's a good young threesome. Kyle Harrison, one of the top prospects in baseball, showed flashes of why. Tristan Beck was just like super impressive to me throughout the season and looks like a guy deserving of starts. And Keaton Wynn, I put him kind of in that same, different style of pitcher, but Keaton Wynn looks like a guy who probably belongs in a major league rotation with the repertoire that he has. Both of them throw hard, kind of different movement profiles. Wynn throws a splitter, and Beck is more of like a breaking ball sweeper kind of guy, but both just really good. Like maybe the numbers don't totally reflect it for Keaton Wynn, but Tristan Beck, 3.92 ERA, 3.71 expected ERA, made 3 starts, 85 innings, 33 games. So multiple innings, hopefully more of a traditional role. And then there's more young pitching coming. But basically, that's us evaluating the Giants pitching staff in 2023. It was a mixed bag. It was like I said, you've got your great homegrown top starter and closer, and you've got your solid crusty veteran in Alex Cobb, and then it's like you've got underperforming veterans, a lot of whom are not under contract, opt-out decisions to come, and then youth and promise, like legitimate promise from some of these young arms, like Kyle Harrison, Tristan Beck, and Keaton Wynn. So anyway, that is all the time that we have for today. Thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Every dayers tomorrow on the show. I think I said we were going to be doing awards, although I kind of actually feel like I've given out my awards, and some of them are pretty obvious, to be frank, like Cy Young, Logan Webb, for example. I think we might get back. I have a zillion more mailbag questions, so that might be actually our focus for tomorrow. So anyway, thanks again for making Locked On Giants your first listen every day. Once again, my name is Ben Kaspick. Check me out on Twitter or X or whatever, at Ben Kaspick, Kaspick. Also, if you happen to like this show, please consider rating it or leaving a review. It helps me out tremendously. So thank you so much in advance, and thank you so much to everyone who's done so already. I cannot wait to be with you again tomorrow. Thanks again for listening today. You are now Locked On Giants.